Before we begin, please take a second to like and subscribe, as it helps out the channel a lot. Thank you. I've been driving big rigs for about 16 years now, over 1 million miles under my belt. I've seen just about every state in the lower 48, and for the most part, I like the solitude, the long stretches of highway, and the feeling of being out there while the rest of the world sleeps. It gives me a lot of peace. But this one shook me to my core. I don't talk about it much, but maybe getting it off my chest will help me sleep again. This happened in the fall of 2019, somewhere between Nevada and Utah. I had a load of automotive parts coming out of Sacramento, heading eastbound toward Denver. The route I took skirted through some of the most desolate stretches of land I'd ever seen, vast emptiness for miles, dotted with the occasional gas station, a few sketchy motels, and a handful of tiny desert towns that look like something out of a time capsule from the 70s. I always plan my stops carefully. When you're on the road that much, you learn where the decent truck stops are, the ones with clean showers, decent food, and secure lots. But sometimes, things don't go as planned. That particular night, I was behind schedule. I'd hit some unexpected construction and a nasty backup near Reno. By the time I was deep in the Nevada desert, it was around 2:30 in the morning, and I was running on fumes, both in terms of gas and sleep. My original plan was to stop at a TA station just past the Utah border, but my eyelids were getting dangerously heavy. You don't mess around with drowsy driving in an 80,000-pound vehicle. So when I saw a green sign that said rest area 1 mile, I figured I'd pull in, park, and shut my eyes for an hour or two. When I exited, I realized this rest area wasn't on my usual route. It looked older, almost forgotten. No vending machines, no bathroom lights, just one dim yellow streetlight flickering like it was on its last breath. A couple of semi-trailers were already parked near the back, and a beat-up sedan sat near the trash bins with its hood up, like someone had abandoned it mid-repair. I backed my rig into a spot away from the other trucks and killed the engine. No APU, no fan, just silence. I locked up, closed the curtains in my sleeper cab, and laid down. That's when I heard it. At first, I thought it was just the creaks and pops of a cooling engine, but then I heard it again. A soft, scraping sound, like someone dragging their fingers across my trailer's side panels. I sat up in my bunk and held my breath. It wasn't wind. It was deliberate, slow scratching. I reached into the cubby and grabbed my flashlight. I've dealt with lot lizards, druggies, and even a few would-be thieves in the past. I wasn't looking for trouble, but I also wasn't going to ignore it. I unlatched the door and peeked out. The night was dead still. No one was there. I walked the perimeter. No footprints. No people. The sedan was still sitting there, hood up, untouched. Just as I turned to get back in the cab, I noticed something that stopped me dead in my tracks. The passenger door of that sedan was cracked open. I could have sworn it was shut when I pulled in. I hadn't heard it open, hadn't seen anyone get out. I clicked off my flashlight and stood there in the dark, listening. That's when I noticed there was no sound, no crickets, no distant engines, nothing. Then came the breathing. It wasn't mine. It was faint, but unmistakable. From somewhere behind that car, I heard a shaky, shallow breath, like someone trying to keep quiet but losing control. I didn't wait to find out who it was. I got back into my cab, locked the doors, and started the engine. As I shifted into drive, I glanced in my side mirror and froze. Someone was standing by the back of my trailer. A man, wearing dark clothes. I couldn't see his face, just his outline in the red glow of my taillights. I didn't care who he was or what he wanted. I hit the gas and peeled out of that rest stop like a bat out of hell. I didn't stop again until I reached the well-lit truck stop 2 hours down the road. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely sign the fuel receipt. A few months later, a buddy of mine sent me a news article from a local Utah paper. It was about a missing person, a woman whose car had been found abandoned near the Nevada border. The picture showed a silver sedan with the hood up. It was the exact same car. They never found her body. I still drive. It's in my blood. But I don't stop at rest areas anymore unless they're lit up like Times Square. And I carry a pocket knife for safety now. I've been driving trucks for a little over 10 years now. It's a tough life, but it suits me. I like the freedom of the open road, the endless horizons, the solitude. Most people think truckers are all about the adrenaline or the money, but for me it's something quieter, something almost meditative about being alone for hours with nothing but the sound of the engine and the road beneath your tires. My rig is my home away from home. I know every creak and groan it makes. Every crack in the windshield, every faded sticker on the dashboard has a story. But no matter how familiar things get, the road always surprises you, sometimes in ways you don't want. The story I'm about to tell you started last fall. It was a cold October evening, the kind where the air smells sharp, almost metallic. I was on a standard route from a small town in Nebraska to a warehouse near Denver, Colorado. The trip was nothing special, something I'd done dozens of times. I was aiming to hit the road right before sunset and get to the destination by morning. The first few hours were routine. I passed through endless fields of corn, the stalks rustling in the wind. I stopped once at a tiny diner that still had a jukebox in the corner and a waitress who looked like she hadn't seen a day off in years. She served me lukewarm coffee and told me to watch the weather. It's supposed to get cold. I nodded and smiled, knowing the forecast didn't scare me. I'd driven through worse. I was back on the highway, night settling in like a thick blanket. The road stretched out like a ribbon of black under the faint glow of the moon. My headlights cut through the dark, illuminating road signs and empty stretches of pavement. It's easy to feel small out there. The radio buzzed with static, playing old country songs that seemed out of place on this lonely highway. After a couple of hours, I needed to stop for gas and a quick break. There's a rest area just off the interstate. Nothing fancy, just a few pumps, a small convenience store, and some benches outside. When I pulled in, the place was almost deserted. Just me, a handful of other trucks, and a few cars. That's when I noticed him. A man sitting alone on a bench near the edge of the parking lot. He looked rough, like he hadn't slept in days. His clothes were worn and dirty, and he smoked a cigarette with hands that trembled just slightly. But what caught my attention wasn't just how tired he looked. It was the way he was staring at me. I shook it off, thinking maybe I was just on edge. I stretched my legs and grabbed a sandwich inside the store. When I came back outside, the man was still there, but now he was pacing slowly near the far corner of the lot. He didn't make eye contact, but I could feel his gaze burning through the shadows. Something about the way he moved felt deliberate, like he was waiting for me. I climbed back into my cab, locking the door behind me. For a moment, I thought about calling the police, but figured I'd just imagined it. People do hang around rest areas for all kinds of reasons. I pulled back onto the highway and kept an eye on the mirrors. For the next 30 miles or so, every rest stop I passed, I saw the same man, or someone who looked exactly like him, standing just off the parking lots, always watching, always silent. It started messing with my head. The long stretches of empty road and night already play tricks on your mind. Add to that the feeling that someone is following you, and every shadow starts to look like a threat. Around midnight, I stopped again, this time at a rundown gas station. The flickering neon sign buzzed overhead, casting eerie green light across the cracked pavement. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed too loud. The clerk was a young guy who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else but here. As I was pumping gas, I glanced outside and caught sight of the man standing near the entrance, just watching. I tried to ignore him and paid for my gas. The clerk whispered, barely audible over the buzz, "That guy's been here all night. Following trucks, they say." "Following trucks?" I repeated, half joking. The clerk nodded. "Yeah, creeping around at stops. Some say he's harmless, but others say he's been trying to break into rigs. Drivers have reported their stuff missing." I felt a cold pit open in my stomach. I hurried back to my truck. The man was gone when I looked again. I told myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe the clerk was exaggerating. But I kept glancing in my mirrors, my heart beating faster every time a shadow moved just out of sight. Then it happened. About an hour down the road, I noticed a pair of headlights riding my tail. At first, I thought it was just a car that wanted to pass, but no matter how fast I went, the lights stayed right behind me. I tried flashing my brights. Nothing. Then, out of nowhere, the car sped up and pulled alongside my rig. I looked over. It was him. That same pale, tired face staring straight at me. His eyes were cold and unblinking, like a predator sizing me up. I slammed on the brakes and pulled over onto the shoulder, heart hammering in my chest. The car stopped behind me. I grabbed my phone and called dispatch, explaining everything. The man didn't get out. He just sat there watching me in silence. Minutes dragged on like hours. Then, without warning, the car sped off into the darkness. I sat there for a long time, hands shaking, until I finally got back on the road. The rest of the trip was quiet. No more sightings. When I got back to the warehouse, I told the police. They said they'd send patrols to the area, but didn't find anything. I haven't seen that man since, but sometimes, when I'm alone on the road at night, I can still feel his eyes on me, waiting. And that's the scariest part of all.